Hi, my name is Michaela Leinonen, and I'm here today with two other parent liaisons, Cheryl Walter and Tanya Hartman. We are typically teaching workshops at HomeLink, but have the wonderful opportunity this year to be parent liaisons and answer parent questions and help others going through so many of the struggles that many of us have faced or are facing schooling our kiddos at home through HomeLink. So we're doing a quick video, and we will be doing a series of these videos on different topics that some parents have been reaching out to consultants or us about, and they just want to find out more information on how to either pace their day or create a distraction-free learning environment. So today we're going to be going over how we organize our days and keep our kiddos on task. So I have with me a guest speaker today, and her name is Candy. She has 3 elementary kiddos that are at HomeLink. They've been there for the last 2 years. She is very knowledgeable about many things that have worked for her family and how their day looks, and she keeps her kiddos on task. So Candy, you're up.
All right. One thing I want to start with, like Michaela said, I have 3 children, but they are all fairly close. They're all in elementary school, so that's going to be different if your kids are more spaced out. And because they're all pretty close, a lot of our curriculum is the same for the kids. They might be in different spaces, so I'm able to group stuff a lot differently than maybe somebody who has more spread out curriculum. Another thing that I want you to keep in mind with how we organize our day is my curriculum is open and go. So with that in mind, the main thing I do is I break our day into chunks. So we have kind of our group stuff that we all do together. We have a lot of read alouds and different things that we work on together, like our writing we do together. And then our other chunk is the individual work. So when I plan out our day, I actually have a beautiful little schedule here that I just write it out that the kids can follow. We start with our morning basket time, which is our group time. And we all sit down and do our group stuff together. We're able to discuss, do our read alouds. And I'm able to add in there things that are important to our family traditions that aren't necessarily school stuff. So it's all integrated in together. Once we finish our group stuff, or say we don't finish that and it's about time, I have a time that we go to individual work, but it's kind of loose. So if we get to that time and I'm ready to move on to our individual work and we haven't finished our group work for the day, I may save some of that for when we have lunch. So I center our group times around meal times, because the kids are like sitting and eating and they're entertained and they aren't getting distracted by wanting to go play or do something else. So that has worked really well for us. So once we finish our morning basket time, we're about at that loose time of time to start individual work. What I use for my children is I put together a checklist, and each student has their own checklist. Now, some of these things, this is their individual work. So it's different work that they're doing than their siblings. Some of these things they're going to do with me, and some they're doing on their own. So as they sit and do their individual work, I am moving around to each child and working with them. So once we have our individual work done, because my kids are elementary school students, we don't have a ton of stuff that we're doing. I know that once you get into secondary, it's going to be more than just morning time. So we're able to finish our individual work around lunchtime. And then we finish any group stuff that we haven't finished at lunchtime. And then we're kind of done for our day, and we get to do all our fun stuff in the afternoon. So my main things that I do is I really break it into 2 chunks, our group work time and our individual work time.
Awesome. Thank you so much. That was some great information there. So up next, we're going to have Cheryl talk about what she did over her many years of schooling her kiddos at home.
So yeah, I had 3 kids, and during my time, they ranged from elementary up to middle school. And I found that with some of my kids, checklist worked okay. My oldest was great with using a checklist, but my boys did not do so well. My youngest particularly needed a schedule. I had to make up a schedule that said reading, math, whatever. And he had to know exactly, even if he couldn't tell the time, he had to know what he should be doing at a given time. In early elementary, I scheduled about half an hour per subject. And if they got finished too quickly, that's fine. They could go have some free time, which they, especially my boys, really needed. But it was a break time for my daughter too, if she got finished with what she was doing. I also tried to work around in a circle, some handwriting while I worked with math on another one, and so on like that. Lots of breaks. We had breaks for water, we had breaks for movement, breaks for food. I did learn that I had to do some things for me as a mom. I had to turn off my phone. I had one friend that would call, particularly right in the middle of schooling time every day. I had to make sure that my kids who had speech therapy appointments, that we did not schedule those during prime learning time, which was in the morning when all the therapists wanted to schedule things because their school kids couldn't come during those times. But I had to tell them, no, we have to do the afternoons. For me personally also, I had to get up at the same time every morning and have some time by myself for breakfast without talking to anybody before I felt recharged and ready to go. And I also had to have realistic expectations for each of my kids. My daughter had a very long attention span and can focus for long periods of time and work on her own. My middle son has ADHD, and he really needed me there tapping the paper and saying, yeah, you need to work on this. Look at this, get this done. My youngest with dyslexia meant I had to really be hands-on in his work with him a lot. But that's kind of what I did to help keep my kids on task and moving along and keeping our day going.
Awesome. Thank you. Tanya, what did your days look like, or do they look like still?
Okay, well, I took some notes because you guys said good stuff and made me have a lot of memories for my family. So all my kids are a little bit bigger now. When my kids were younger, so I had three, I was like Candy, so three very close, all in elementary at the same time. So in some ways that gave me a lot of advantages. I think it's harder when your kids are really spread out, because now I also have that with my youngest who came much later. So a lot of my homeschooling, we all did like joint learning. So even though all my kids were a little different age and a little different grade since they were all in elementary, we did science, history, art, geography, math facts, English facts, all those kinds of things together as group work. Because even if it was maybe a little easy for the older, the younger was learning, or the older could even help teach the younger. It just, so everything that I could teach as a group, I worked very hard to make that happen because it made my life much easier. I also purposefully purchased and used low prep curriculum for myself because I could not handle spending hours of my own time trying to figure out curriculum, prep for it every night, every week, whatever. I couldn't do that. It just drove me kind of bonkers. So I researched and bought the curriculum that was very low prep, so it took the least amount of time for me. Another thing I did to help me is, like, let's say I started Shirley Grammar with my oldest when he was young, but then I stuck with Shirley Grammar for my younger students, or same with math. We all did the same curriculum. I had them all in the same curriculum, just at different grade levels. So I was very familiar, and it was all curriculum kind of follows, you know, if you buy as it gets older, it still kind of follows the same kind of rhythm and pattern, just maybe a little more content. So that seemed to help me a lot too, because then I became very familiar with it. It was super easy for me to teach. Also, a lot of times, even in their math and English and things where they'd be at a different level, they were still learning about the same concepts, so that it worked well together. I personally am not a super scheduled person, so I am a more flexible, what I would say loose kind of homeschooler. So I did not ever have rigid schedules that we followed. I did try to make sure that we got our schooling done before 3 o'clock because I would have neighbor kids show up. That was really the only reason why. And then it would interrupt if we didn't have anything done. Of course, there were times where we didn't get it done. Sometimes we do it at night. So I'm very flexible like that. Something that worked well for my family was me just kind of writing a general to-do list every day. So Monday through Friday, these are the subjects you need to get done. These are the pages you need to get done. And following that, I would actually allow my kids to work ahead if they wanted to, or I would let my kids at night work on part of their school for the next day if they wanted to shorten their day up. We did a lot of things like that. So organizing my day, I always made sure my kids had tons of breaks. So I had a couple of very kinesthetic learners that it was so hard for them to sit and focus. So I would allow them to stand, get up, walk around, lay on the floor, go in a different room. We never did like a sit at your desk like school. My homeschooling was never that way. I'd let them have a ball, roll it around under their feet, whatever it is, a manipulative if they need it in their hand. Once we would get through with one subject, we'd take like 15, 20 minutes, and this would lengthen our day, but we would take time. Everybody go do 3 minutes of jumping jacks. Everybody run 10 laps around the kitchen, whatever it is. And a lot of times I would have my kids, we'd do flashcards, things like that, and carry them with you. Learn them while you're moving. Jump up and down the stairs while you're saying your math facts. So I incorporated a ton of movement and activity because I have a lot of moving in my family. I don't know if I would say my kids are like, high activity. We just are like that. So it worked well. It seemed like my kids succeeded much better in learning when I allowed that, even though, okay, it does create a lot of mess and it can be very stressful. So another thing to organize my day then, I was very strict about once you're done, you have to get your curriculum back to wherever the designated section is that your curriculum goes. Because then the next day we would spend a half an hour looking for a book or a paper. So we had problems with that when everybody could go everywhere around the house. So that was one thing I really had to stick to was, did you get your books back? We always did a co-op on Thursdays, which was super fun. It was a parent co-op, and then Fridays was our fun day. So I would try to save, like if we did cooking, science experiments, all kinds of fun, awesome art projects. We would try to make Friday a really fun activity-based, maybe our own personal field trips. And I counted a lot of real life as homeschool, which a lot of people don't, but I do. So the cooking, with math and the science, we did a lot of science journaling, going out and observing things in nature, drawing them, watching what's happening, how it's growing, things like that. And I think that's about it. I mean, I agree with what Cheryl said as far as try to be realistic for your kids' expectations. That's a really hard one as a homeschooler. It's really easy to think, oh, my kid has to be the smartest, brightest, get through 100% of every curriculum. And that's really putting a lot of pressure on yourself. It's really not a realistic goal. I had to rein myself in too, as far as scheduling myself, as not answering my phone, turning off the phones, not making appointments. I had to force myself to do that because I was very distracted by wanting to respond to those things, which stole from our school day. And then we didn't get a lot done.
Awesome. Thank you so much for that insight. So I have 2 kiddos. We've been at HomeLink. This is our 3rd year. Wow. And my little guy just started kindergarten this year. So we have 2 now. And I have a notebook for each kid. And in the notebook, I've tried writing it down daily like Tanya, and then I would get so frustrated when we didn't complete all the tasks because either I overscheduled and assumed that the kiddos could do more than they can, or we just didn't have the best of days. So I started writing down our weekly tasks for each subject and in their individual notebook. And then that allows me, or if they like, my 3rd grader, she likes to check off when she's completed tasks, give them a sense of accomplishment. So we check off the tasks that they do out of the notebook for the week. So the first 3 days of the week, I usually let them choose the things that they want to do that are in our list for the week. We have things we do every day, like you need to review your words for reading, and then we do some reading stuff. And then most days we do math. And then I let them choose, like, are we going to do history today and do a hands-on history kit? Or are we going to do a science experiment and do our science stuff today? And they feel like they have a little bit of control at that point. And that has definitely helped our homeschool experience. And we do our history and our, like, all of our social studies and our science, those are all done together, just like everyone else was saying. And that makes everything so much easier. And my daughter, who's the third grader, can write stuff down where the kindergartner can't necessarily do that yet. And so they work together on a lot of that. And sometimes we use those for our co-op also. We'll just use our curriculum during our co-op time, which is art and science. And so that's worked really well for us this year and helped me not feel overwhelmed, because I know what our pacing's supposed to be, and I put that for the week into the notebook instead of each day. I just encourage everyone to understand that consistency is so important, but you also have the flexibility, like Tanya was talking about, with schooling at home, because you can say, today is not working, and cancel, go on a walk, go on a nature walk, do some hands-on stuff that they don't necessarily think is learning. Go play at a park, do those other things, and then you can make it up at another time, in the evening, on a weekend. We've done school in the car. So there's a ton of different options, and obviously you have to figure out what works best for your family to keep your kids on task and going throughout the day. Does anybody else have anything to say that we may have forgotten?
I have one thing that I wanted to add. I think everyone kind of touched on this, but something that we started doing at the beginning of our school year, which you could do this at any point or do a check-in, is kind of sit down either with your spouse or you could do it by yourself and go over like the top things that are important to you for homeschool, and then pick your top 2 and 3. Like, we do those no matter what, because there are days that are going to be rough. There are days that are going to be bad. And if you say, okay, I did my top 2 or 3, that's a successful day, right? What that is for you. It could be doing read alouds. It could be doing science activities. It could be math and your reading curriculum, whatever that is for you. That's just really helped take a lot of pressure off me. Like, hey, we had a successful day. We did those 2 things.
And I just wanted to add to that, if you're feeling that you consistently can't get those 2 or 3 things done, come back and talk to us, email us, talk to your consultant. Maybe the curriculum you have is not a good fit for your family. Maybe it's too advanced or something else is going on there that is just not a good fit. There are other ways of doing it, other curriculums. Your consultants can work with you on that, or we can help you try to tweak your curriculum to make it work for what you need to get done.
So there's not really a perfect or right way to do this or a wrong way to do this. I think that everybody should be flexible and know that, you can morph and change things for your family and how it works, and shouldn't feel like you're doing it the wrong way because you're not doing it the way the school says you should, or the way that feels like you're in school. The whole point of homeschooling is you don't have to replicate the school system and program for your kids to learn. And sometimes I think it's hard to kind of break free from that. If you like that, that's great. And if it works for your family, that's awesome. But a lot of times it doesn't. And learning how to morph it so it works for your whole family. And the other thing I thought Michaela made a really good point that I think should be reiterated is if there's crying, anger, frustration, things, and you say, okay, you know what, we're done today. That's all right. Every day doesn't have to be full of a whole bunch of subjects. It's all right to say, this isn't working, or you're having a really hard day. We're going to take a break. So I thought that was a really good thing to make sure everybody, it's okay to do that.
And I think especially going into wintertime, we all struggle a little bit more, including teachers in traditional schools. Winter's just hard in general. And so our family dials it back a bit in wintertime, because if it's sunny, we are going outside. We have sun days. We usually don't have snow days. So we go outside and we enjoy the sunshine, and then our brains work a little bit better. So just know that everyone kind of struggles going into the winter. You'll get through break. We'll start getting more sunny days, and everything feels a little bit more manageable again. So just know you're not the only one, and that we've all been there. And please reach out, like Cheryl was saying, to consultants, staff, us, the parent liaisons. Find another parent to talk to, because feeling isolated is definitely a hard part about homeschooling, and not having on-site workshops can be struggling right now. So thank you for joining us, and we hope you got some good information, and tune in to any other videos that you feel might be helpful to your family. Awesome. Thanks. Bye.